Hello and thank you for joining us today for this special edition of The Issues called Empowering the Community. I'm Tim Lampley. How many of you have sat at home looking at the evening news wondering when the violence is going to end? St. Louis City has already surpassed a number of homicides it had all of 2014. But our show today is not about spotlighting the violence, though we will talk about it. Instead, we want to focus on solutions and ways to uplift our neighbors, our friends, the young people who are feeling hopeless right now. Sometimes all it takes is a healthy conversation about resources and opportunities to put someone on the journey to changing his or her life for the better. Again, our show is about empowering the community, and we have a wonderful panel of leaders who hope to do just that. I promise you, this is a show you don't want to miss. But first, take a listen to what these North St. Louis residents had to say about street violence.
The way that we have to live life, things happen out here in these streets that terrible things happen to people. Like just a couple of weeks ago, they found the body in the alley, young lady. You know, and a black man took her life. So people do retaliate. People have feelings. People are hurt. So it's hard to stop the violence. It comes back to how you raised, your morals. It's your morals, how you were brought up, and who you care about, and who care about you.
If you had the opportunity to share some advice to young women your age, what would that advice be?
My advice would be to finish school. I don't care what you do, because I did. I finished school on a hope, dream, and prayer. I got kicked out of every school I went to for fighting. Finish school and get a job.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce my panel of guests, Demetrius Johnson, founder of the Demetrius Johnson Charitable Foundation. We know him as DJ. Rebecca Ritter from St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment. Nathaniel Dempsey, Executive Assistant of Employment Connection. And Yolanda Robinson, founder and CEO of Women in Vision. Can each of you tell me about your organization and what services you provide?
Well, my organization, I'm Demetrius Johnson. Our organization, we take a three-step approach. We talk about education, arts, and sports, and we try to do the holistic movement to try to give empower to the community. That's what we do.
Okay.
Slate American Job Center Young Adult Division, we work with young adults ages 16 through 24 to mainly provide employment and training to our participants, but we also provide wraparound services to our participants to meet all of their needs.
At Employment Connection, we've been providing offender reentry services since 1977. Our mission is to assist individuals with limited opportunities to self-sufficiency, and primarily we do that at the intersection of employment, housing, and behavioral health.
Women in Vision is a nonprofit organization empowering women and girls. We work with incarcerated women teaching self-sufficiency. We work with women in corporate, teaching life coach classes, mentoring many of the youth in the community and youth of incarcerated parents.
DJ, the video we just saw, there's obviously some disillusion going on there, whether it's jobs and getting themselves back on track. And you'll hear from them later on in the show, by the way. We have more video from them. But what do you do to address the concerns of residents who are disillusioned?
Well, I think a lot of the problems we have in the community is that there's been so many promises that's been made to the community. And when the trust is not there, people are not going to believe in the services that you can offer. And I think some of us become victims of that because we truly have a vested interest in that community. However, when you promise things and people offer you things, you don't come. The services are not there. So now the community turns their back on you. So what we got to do is give our word, keep our word, and stand strong to our word, and really empower the community and give them services that are necessary.
Tell me about some of the services you have there at and you have a whole building there at the corner there, so we all know about that.
The thing that we really push is education. We have a tutoring program that's off the charts for our kids in that program because I tell you why, education is the piece, man. That's the piece that we don't really talk about. We don't really embrace because for whatever reason, I mean, I'll give you an example. We are having a Christmas party. We want to give books to the kids to read. The parents don't want the books. They don't want the kids to do that. And sometimes, I mean, it's really, it bothers us because that's the thing that we know that is needed. So our service is what we're going to do. I'm talking about that holistic service from the discipline, commitment, being on time, doing the things that you need. It is very, very important that we teach those type of behaviors because that's going to be the behaviors to get the kids to move to another level.
Anybody else want to jump in there about services that you provide for people in the community?
In the Prison to Prosperity program, we work with young men who are currently incarcerated, and we start working with them while they are still in jail to give them life skills, behavior modification skills, job readiness skills, so that when they're ready to come out of the jail system, that we can place them immediately into temporary employment and then provide the wraparound services to help them find long-term permanent employment, plus the mentorship and the GED, HSE education if they so need it.
And I guess one of the questions I would ask, and I've heard somebody use this phrasing, structures of opportunity. How do we create structures of opportunity? You want to jump in there?
Well, my idea of the structure is going to the source. Working in the correctional facility, what we do every Saturday is work with the women that are incarcerated and where we have their undivided attention because many of the programs won't work if the people don't show up. So they have to come. Well, with them being incarcerated, they're there. And so when they come to the classes that we host, it's kind of where they're made to attend and be able to receive what we have for them. So I think that type of structure is important. Aftercare, I believe that people need to be mandated or stipulated from the courts because if you just offer it to them and say that they can just come on their own, the most likelihood that they won't show up. So I think that sometimes it has to be a situation where they have to show up because there are lots of programs that I've heard people have and they say the people don't show up for it, for the help.
What do you think the central issue is to ending violence and empowering the people?
Well, I think that part of it also, we have to empower the parents. We put a lot of focus on the youth, but, a lot of it begins in home. And so if we can empower these moms and dads to be better in the home and take back the control that has been taken from them, I think we would see some change. It's not going to happen overnight because all of this that has taken place wasn't overnight. So I do think that parents will have to take major responsibility. I do believe that it takes a village to raise the child. So the churches have to be involved as well as the parenting and schools and these programs.
Mr. Dempsey?
I think it's really important to remember that we need to integrate all of the voices in the community in order to do that, that each of us up here represent a component of that effort in the St. Louis region, and we have to have a collective impact if we're going to address any of those kinds of problems.
Where do we go as a community? One of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit later is called Save Our Sons program that the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis has. And it grew out of, particularly out of the Ferguson situation because, again, there are people who were there who, for whatever reason, felt that they were helpless and they were hopeless. And creating programs like that, is that the key?
The problem that we have, and I hear the panelists talking about empowering people, empowering the parents. I mean, the power has never been taken out of the parents. The parents, they made a decision themselves to not be a part of the changes in their kids' lives. I mean, we can't mandate a parent to love their kid and take care of their kid. You can't do that. The problem that we're having is the educational system. See, we water down our educational system so bad that we don't allow and we don't have expectations on our kids. So when it's all said and done, it's going to go back to that one central thing, and that's that educational component. We need to make sure we give our kids an opportunity to get educational, get them right. Don't water down. Don't socially promote these kids because they're not making noise in the classroom. That's where it's got to start. And you're talking about the parents. The parents, guys, they got the power. The problem is the parents have not accepted the power. The parents have been out of the lives of these kids. I mean, at one time, you can go to a school and say, I know my mother, if a teacher said I did something wrong, my mother's not going to question the teacher. I'm going to go on me. You go there now, the parent want to question the teacher rather than discipline the kid. We see it every day in our organization that the parent is not, it's not they don't have the power, they choose not to use the power.
But you know that now parents themselves, sometimes they probably, there's a situation where some parents have children that they're not prepared to raise. Sometimes that financial difficulty that they didn't expect are there too. And sometimes that has a bearing on, obviously, raising children. Lately in the news, we've been talking about a living wage. Parents who work 40 hours a week but still can't afford to take care of themselves and their children. And sometimes that play into a mental situation of of trying to raise a kid because they're so concentrated on so many other things or so depressed about. So yes, some of the blame goes to the parents, but at the same time they're going through things as well.
So you're doing exactly what society is doing. You're saying to me,
I'm not giving them an excuse.
Well, no, that's what you're doing. When you sit up here talking about, because a parent, I got to work. My mother worked. She raised 9 kids in a 3-bedroom apartment in the projects. She did everything she had to do to provide for us. We talk about responsibility. We're talking about making a responsible decision to make sure you give your kids and your family a best opportunity to succeed. So we give all excuses, but we don't hold nobody accountable for it. There's no accountabilities that's going on. We're saying, okay, well, the parent has got to work. Well, my mother worked. I'm working every day. I got to take care of my kids. You're working. I guarantee our parents are working every day. So there's no excuse for that. I mean, we got to make people become accountable for what's going on in their community.
Well, I have to say about that is I would not want to debate with you about whose responsibility really it is. I believe that we all have to be accountable. However, I feel that working with many of the women that are incarcerated as well as women that have troubled children, the system took their right to discipline their own kids. I have women incarcerated for whipping their children. And I'm not saying beating them with a skillet or beating them down. I'm talking about literally just disciplining them. And they went to jail for it. So they took that role of that mom of trying to correct her child. They took her right and locked her up for disciplining her child. And this happens a lot. I've seen where teachers, I have many, many friends who are school teachers that say they'll call the parents and ask them, could you, talk to your child that disrupting my class? I can't do anything. You know what the mom said? Well, they took my right from disciplining them. I can't do anything with the child, so you all deal with it. And then when these children have problems where they act out and get in trouble in school, the schools won't even suspend them. They put them in school suspension. They're not really even being punished.
Meanwhile, the Save Our Sons program that I just mentioned is offered by the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis. Let's take a look. Homicide rate in St. Louis is alarming. Community leaders already grappling with how best to move forward in the aftermath of the Ferguson uprising are feeling helpless. One new initiative promoting positive change is the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis's Saving Our Sons program. Jamie Dennis is one of the facilitators. He says Saving Our Sons is the brainchild of the Urban League's president, Michael McMillan, and is a direct result of what happened in Ferguson.
As the protesters were out there was a lot of troubled youth that were coming to him like, Mr. McMillan, we need opportunity. He asked them what will, kind of help the problem, and they said we need resources.
The program targets African American men and other minorities and aims to give them the skills they need to find a job and establish a career.
We have a guy that I won't say his name, but he was a felon and he never had a job a day in his life. He came to the program, within 3 weeks this man was hired, and he's still on that job today.
28-year-old Howard Shelton is also a success story. For years, his criminal record kept him from steady employment. Becoming a new father made it especially difficult.
Before this program, I didn't have a job. After this program, I got a job, and because of this program, I got an even better job. And as far as my daughter, I'm able to buy diapers and milk and clothes, and she's number 5 months, but she grows fast, and I got a lot more years that I'm gonna have to take care of her. So it put me in a position where I can definitely do that.
Dennis adds that, more importantly, the SOS initiative provides renewed hope and value to the lives of men who sometimes feel neglected and helpless.
So the beauty of the program is, instead of having to go out there alone, we bring you to a class, we equip you with skills, and then we put you right in front of the hiring managers to where they can see you in a good light.
We have Nathaniel who wants to address the people who have criminal records and are trying to get back on their feet. Talk a little bit more about services that you offer for them.
It's an important element to add to the conversation. When we're talking about children and parents and violence in the community, we have to tackle the issue of intergenerational incarceration. That you have generation upon generation of people, disproportionately in low-income neighborhoods, who end up somehow involved in the criminal justice system. So part of that is on the policy end of addressing those factors. But the other part of the reality is that there are 17,000 ex-offenders in the St. Louis region. Not people in prison, but people out of prison in the community. And so our choice is either to provide reentry services to them, to incorporate them back into the neighborhoods, or to not provide those services and have a continued cycle back in the criminal justice system. So what we would encourage anyone to do, if you have a criminal record and you're looking for services, from resume writing to housing to assistance, we're trying to help you be more productive. That call our main office at 333-JOBS, that's 333-5627, so that we can work on an individualized plan to help you get back on your feet.
And this is a problem for men and women. We also, let me just say too, my director says to acknowledge the fact that we have a live studio audience who's here, who's listening, and being a part of this discussion today. And we hopefully will take a few questions from them a little later in the show. But also, let's talk about this women's conference that's coming up also.
Yes, we will be hosting our 17th annual Women's Empowerment Conference, December the 5th. Which will be held at the Embassy Suites at the airport, 12 to 5. However, we'll have 5 phenomenal women who are life coach and ministers and motivational speakers that will be on the panel. And I tell you, these women will be from corporate America to some of them have been incarcerated. And the goal is to empower these women, to help them to pursue goals in life and reach higher than the things where they're stagnated at. I just believe that empowering and giving people hope that they can achieve these goals that they're setting, and also help them to find the different resources that are there available to them. That is the ultimate goal, to help women to just continue to reach higher.
DJ, let's come back to you. President Obama said we have an affirmative agenda to make sure young people feel hope when it comes to investing in our kids. What's the #1 priority?
Education is the #1 priority.
And you did mention that earlier. You did mention that.
That is the #1 priority. And you're talking about services. We have a program that's with the District Council 58 Painters Union. And these are guys from 18 to 50. They got backgrounds, they've been in prison and things like that. It's a 14-week program. They don't get a dime. They're there at 6 o'clock in the morning. They don't leave till 3:30 in the afternoon every single day, 5 days a week. And people are telling us that wouldn't work. That's why they say it wouldn't work, because we have to give them something to be there. I'm a firm believer. If you invest in them and give them an opportunity to understand that there's positive things that can happen for them down the road, guess what? They need to invest back into themselves. I don't think you got to incentivize it. I don't think you got to give people money to change their lives. It's ridiculous. If your life is this way, is bad, why wouldn't we want to change it? So there are opportunities. But what happens now, corporate America, the various companies, they must understand that these guys, some of these trumped up charges these young men and women are having is ridiculous. Give them another opportunity to try to change their lives. How do you do it? By providing a job service for them, giving them an opportunity to provide for their family.
What are the age range for those in that program that you're talking about?
I program from 18-year-olds. We even had guys in their 40s. And you know what? Now they're employable. Okay. They're working, and that's the beauty of it. And you know, and some of these guys have backgrounds. Some of these guys have felonies in their lives. However, they wanted to change. We make decisions as kids, man, that sometimes come back and haunt us. I mean, that few minutes of pleasure could be a lifetime of misery. So we got to do a better job at understanding that.
So you may be talking to some people out there who need that information. Can you give us some information on how to contact you?
And what they need to do is call 314-367-4141 and ask about it. And not only that, we incorporated a janitorial maintenance housekeeping program too for folks who's not able to do those other things, to give them another opportunity to be employable so they can take care of their family and change their lives.
Meanwhile, St. Louis's Father Support Center is helping young fathers find employment by helping them to get employment, or actually Dress for Success is the program. And we know how important that is. You came dressed, and I'm a little upset that you came dressed better than me today. But when you're out there trying to get a job, that's a very important thing on how you look. And we're going to take a look at that program right now. In job hunting, recruiters say first impressions are everything. Marketing yourself successfully to a potential employer is not easy, and the first notable thing about you is your attire. St. Louis's Father Support Center helps give young men like 22-year-old Patrick Edwards that competitive edge they need.
Get another man's point of view, like you can be successful, you can look like $1 million, even if you ain't got no money in your pocket, it still look presentable.
And it boosts your confidence.
It boosts it way up.
For 18 years now, the center has provided free classes, a 6-week training program for fathers 18 and older. The last 2 weeks focus on the job interview. What shoes, shirts, suits, and colors to wear, all explained.
Every day, Monday through Friday, we had to dress for like we was going on the job interview. We had to look a certain way. We had to be professional.
What advantage do you think that gives you and other young men like yourself?
I mean, because growing up, you know, the only time you wear dress-up clothes, you're going to a funeral or a wedding.
Edwards says he couldn't even tie a necktie before enrolling in the program.
When we work with fathers, we work with a lot of guys who don't have a work history. Some have absentee in their work history. Some have criminal background. So we want you to go in appropriately dressed.
Another way to make sure you are dressed appropriately is to make sure your hair is combed, tie is straight, and that you're all good. And when we come back, we will talk with our panelist, Rebecca Ritter, about the Prison to Prosperity initiative that the mayor's office has in place. That when we come back.
We don't win unless we work together.
It's how we play our best.
It's how we survive on the field.
Now that same teamwork can save 13 million people
affected by the famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa.
Go to this site
and forward the facts to everyone you know.
The more people who know,
the more money we can raise.
And the more money we raise,
the more people we can help.
Because saving lives doesn't take a lot.
It just takes a lot of us.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans. These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids. Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think. So is the solution.
play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
You know, they ain't try to sit and talk to the people, the elderly people of the community. You know, about what's going on on their block.
They get to know nobody. That's the
No,
whole thing about
they
it.
ride by and they shun you. So,
Or
it's
not
like
even that.
the
You make
line's
your
drawn in the
police
sand.
presence felt, but they're more so bullies.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's the fact? The
Exactly.
point of, if I'm walking down the street, walking to the store, you just jump out on me, hey, what's going on, what you doing, give me your pocket. First off, I did nothing wrong. But you want to say that my neighborhood is a known drug area and is known for violence. Do you see any violence right now at this point? So why are you jumping down on me? That doesn't help. Because you think I'm riding over here and when y'all see me, y'all better run or y'all better tighten up. That don't make us move or we can't hustle over here or we better straighten up. That bullying us ain't gonna help. Nope. First off, it's 10,000 of us over here. It's 10 of y'all on shifts. Get to know us, learn us, and then learn how to patrol the neighborhood. Don't come over here with no tactics. Like, first off, this ain't the crack era no more. So it's not just wild people running around no more. Everything can be structured if you let it get structured. It can turn into a community. You won't let it.
Right? Like, I've been trying since I graduated from Job Corps 2009, right? And I went to the union and I've been going around. I went to Bruh Brothers, I know y'all heard of that. I went to this other place called Trailers out there.
To apply for a job
within my skills, right? You know what they told me? We ain't picking nobody up right now. Do you have a felony? That my first felony was something small. It was credit card theft, the first felony, and it was nothing. It was under like a Class C felony. But I don't understand why come that didn't get me in the union, so I wouldn't have to do the things that I have to do because they don't give nobody a chance.
Rebecca Ritter with the St. Louis Agency for Training and Employment works with the Prison to Prosperity program initiated by Mayor Slay. It's a really great program, and I'd like for Rebecca to talk a little bit more about this.
Thank you, Tim. Mayor Slay was really concerned about the fact that we had so many young men becoming incarcerated with no opportunity for employment outside when they get out. However, he knew he had St. Louis Agency for Training and Employment in place to help those individuals, so he asked our agency to create a program where we actually go into the jail facility before they come out to get them prepared for employment once they get out so that we could put them to work immediately. There's a team of 3 of us mainly that go in 2 nights a week, and we start the job readiness skills, the life skills, the training skills before they even come out. And then when it is time for them to go to court, we go to the court and we advocate on their behalves so that the judges, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, the probation officers know what they've learned and how they've changed since going into our program. When they come out, they know the first thing that they need to do is call Slate. And some of them come straight from the Justice Center to our building without even going home first. And they come, we do their paperwork with them, and most of them are working within a week. And if they need clothes, we help with clothes. We have a great partnership with Demetrius Johnson Foundation, who hosts some of our young men. And we also have a great partnership with MERS Goodwill, who have worked with our young adults to help get them clothing and help with other needs that they may have.
Great, fantastic. Alrighty now, let's see who has a question from our studio audience.
Hello, my name is Davide Weaver, and I'm with the St. Louis World's Fair in Forest Park, and we're on our 3rd year of bringing all the communities of St. Louis together and celebrate our talent and our local people here. My question is, and I agree with DJ that education is the key to getting St. Louis back on track, but what are we doing to actually fix the education system? We have more schools now that are not credited. That's a major issue for kids wanting to stay in school. There's no incentive. If you get a diploma that's not worth anything, why should they stay in there? So that incentive for them to stay there is gone. You know, and it's great, you know, we have some things on the side once they've been incarcerated, how to get people back on track, but we have to find that medium where we're helping the kids before they get to that point. But I do feel there's a great parallel between having one of the worst education systems in the country and having one of the worst crime rates in the country. And so that's why I agree education is a key, but how do we do that? How do we really fix it?
Well, two things need to happen. First of all, you see a lot of charter schools are being prominent in the community. And the KIPP schools like that, that's really stepped in and done an outstanding job in educating our kids. There is statistics will show you there is a parallel with crime and education. I mean, it's kind of like the Darwin theory, you know what I'm saying? It's survival of the fittest. So you got to be able to educate our young kids, but you got to start at the young age. I mean, almost from the infant age, and get them understanding the importance of education. That's how you do it. And when you look at like Riverview School District, even the St. Louis public school system, they are now fighting to get their accreditation back, and they've done a good job. When you look at the last numbers that came out, it's showing that there have been some improvements going on in that system.
We have another question.
Yes, my name is Allison Carcer. I'm the owner of AAA Fish House, and I got two questions. One, I would like to know, what is the community outreach program? I mean, what are you all doing as far as reaching the community with the prison program that you have at Employment Connection, and with, I heard you say you go in to the prisons 3 days a week. Okay, I happen to have a business that's in the community, and I've never, ever seen a leaflet or a pamphlet or a flyer with any of you all's information on it. I go down to the unemployment office, I go down to the grocery store, I go a lot of different places, and I look on their board for information to give the people in the community, because I believe that in order for you to help the community, sometimes you got to become a part of the community. You know, I don't believe in staying stuck in the problem. I want to get to the solution. And like I say, you all offer all these programs, and as far as the prison program goes, I know a couple of people that have called there that goes to the voicemail and leave voicemails. So they get discouraged and they ask, what else do they do? So my question to you, what kind of real information are you all putting out in the community to know something? Because I just now heard about the slate. I've never heard of the Women of Vision program. I mean, it's for all you all to have these things to offer. We don't have no information about it.
Well, I will speak for our agency. Our program is in-house, so there's no need for us to put flyers out because we deal with people who are incarcerated as far as our in-house program. So we deal with them as they are incarcerated, and the women that are appointed to the program have to have completed the in-house program. So they are appointed to the aftercare. As far as reaching professional women or working women to come to our conferences, we reach through churches. You know, we go and leave information with the pastors for them to post or make announcement to bring women out to our conferences. We reach a lot of the youth in the school where their parents end up being part of our conferences that we host. I work with the youth giving forums for the troubled teens. So a lot of times we reach families through the children we work with. What I found is just leaving flyers everywhere, they end up being coasters and thrown on the floor and what have you. So we try to reach the people directly.
And let me commend this panelist. You are so well behaved. You feel free to jump in at any point in time if you hear something and you want to say something. Everybody's waiting for their turn. Gosh, you guys were raised so well.
On that comment then, I actually really love that comment and appreciate that I think everyone can hear the urgency behind that kind of question. There is tremendous need, but also tremendous opportunity in this community. And so I want to answer that very directly. When you think about the system of a nonprofit organization in particular, pamphlets, leaflets, that kind of community outreach, it costs money and it costs staff time. And when resources are limited, you allocate resources based on where the need is greatest.
Her thing is this. She's saying you have to be a part of the community in order to help the community. So when people see your name and your signage, they feel like you're in that community, you're part of that community. So that was the point I think that she's making, is that how are you in that community? Because trying to help out from outside the community, sometimes people don't respond to that.
Well, I think all of our organizations have had some type of impact. I mean, with the SLATE program, they're bringing young men and women down to my organization, and we are helping provide opportunities to develop them for the workforce. Now, she asked an outstanding question. However, I've worked with her before, and her kid has come to my program, so it's a difference because I'm on the radio. I'm a Hot 104.1 FM every Sunday morning. So I'm able to get my word out. And some of these other folks may not have that same type of ability. So
Great radio program, by the way.
Well, thank you. So we're able to get our word out, and then the community speak for itself. I mean, the word is going to get, the community is going to get galvanized by the respect people have for you and what you do in the community. I mean, you may not see all the things, she may not see all the things, but I guarantee you, if those organizations, these organizations are doing what they say they are doing, the people who are being affected by it and who's really benefit from it, I guarantee they're going to be the ones that speak for you.
And one of the reasons why we're here is to let people know that your services are available. I think we have another question from the audience.
Jim Murphy, St. Louis Job Corps. Demetrius, I couldn't agree with you more on the education aspect. What we do at our organization is we try and tell our young people that you don't really have any hope of finding employment if you don't have the education piece with it. This isn't 25 years ago where uneducated people could suddenly become the head of companies. Would you talk a little bit about the discrepancy in your organization of helping people find jobs that are educated as opposed to uneducated?
Well, I mean, probably all of our situations are the same when you talk about that. When you ask people to employ someone, the first thing they want to find out is their educational background. I mean, that's the number one key thing. And if you don't have that, you're fighting an uphill battle. That's why you have programs like the Job Corps and you have the SLATE program and you have those GED programs that offer opportunities for young men and women to get educated. Now, what we got to understand is that's why they have the Job Corps. That's why they have the Rankins, because everybody is not going to be equipped to go to college. So what we got to do is give them some type of skill set where they can provide for themselves and take care of themselves. You don't have to have a college degree to get that, but you need some type of trade, some type of skill set that would allow you to be able to perform. And that's what the Job Corps program brings. They give those skill sets that you may not be able to get in college, but get a practical working opportunity.
Rebecca, can you give people out there some additional information about the SLATE program?
Sure. SLATE actually serves anyone starting at age 16 through 100. They can come down to our office at any time, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or Wednesdays, 9 to 5. We're located at 1520 Market Street, and we're on the 3rd floor. And as long as they have an ID, then they'll be just fine. They can also go to online if from their own computers if they're challenged with transportation. They can go to jobs.mo.gov or stlworks.com. And we have our job fairs listed online all the time. For the Prison to Prosperity program, we typically, again, start that program with the individuals who are currently incarcerated. So they're referred by the jail system or by a judge or a public defender. And so at this point in time, that's how they enter into our program. And then once they get out, they work with our mentor team and our job boot camp specialists to find permanent employment.
Fantastic. Well, a woman who lost it all, and I mean she hit rock bottom, somehow found her strength through an agency called Employment Connection. Here's her story.
I worked at the same job for 26 years. I'm a proud veteran, a mother, a grandmother. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I wasn't supposed to be jobless, homeless, hopeless. Things got so bad that I thought if I died, no one would care. How could this happen to me? Hoping that nobody would break into my car with me out here at nighttime, eating out of the trash can. I got hungry. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any job. I went back out in the market and tried to look for a job, and I would take anything at that point. I just got to the point where I just didn't want to exist anymore. It took a lot of courage for me to make that first step, you know, and I needed the help. I needed some outside help. If it wasn't for United Way funding Employment Connection, then I probably would have checked out, and I wouldn't be here today. Employment Connection got me a job with a temp agency, and within a month, Barnes Hospital hired me right away. So not only gave me a job, but it made me feel like I was somebody. I was beginning to be back to the person I needed to be. I have a job, I have a home, and actually, I'm studying now full-time in deaf communications because I'd like to help someone that goes to the doctor and they need to have someone sign for them. Being able to go back to school to do the things that I want to do this time as far as helping someone. Maybe there's a hungry family out there, you know, that needed some food. This is something I want to do. Just to see their faces and to know that they have food that they will be able to eat and not have to make the decision of medicine or going without food. I'm just happy that we're able to help other people, especially like Miss Henrietta.
Hi, sweetheart, how you doing?
It's a good thing because I'm happy inside that I can do something for somebody else to help them. Thank you, Miss Henrietta, okay? I'm just one person that's trying to help. Because this is my gift, is giving back and help someone else.
That was a fascinating story that speaks volumes about the homelessness and the displacement of veterans right here in our city. However, most important is the resource Lisa found at Employment Connection, a United Way agency. Now, joining me now on the set is Deron Collins-Bay, who also found some great resources with Employment Connection. Tell me a little bit about your reality before you found an Employment Connection.
Absolutely, Tim. I had just become a single father, custodial father of my son and my daughter. And prior to that, I was accustomed to not really having a problem finding a job, but finding one that I actually wanted. Serial entrepreneur, I've started several businesses, helped people start different businesses. At the time, I was working with a friend of mine, a former business partner. We owned a recording studio together, Kenneth Moore. He opened his own auto repair shop. And that was great. Building a business, helping someone else build a business, it gave me a sense of purpose. However, it didn't give me the resources I needed to be a single parent and to go to court and get custody of my children. And so I had to leave Kenny's Auto Repair as a mechanic, and I had to go back and forth to court to get custody of my children. They were out of state at the time. And after doing so, I came back and I went to the Employment Connection for their services to help assist me in finding a job, a better job, not just any job, but one that would provide me the resources I needed to be
okay. So how do you connect to Employment Connection, and what happened once you found this agency?
Well, I was familiar with Employment Connection from many years past when they were on West Pine. It had to be like in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
I just remember them because they were doing good work back then. And so
as you were looking for a job, you found them?
As I was looking for a job, yes,
okay.
I found them. And I went through the program, the World of Works program, where they teach job readiness skills. And more than anything else, they focus on having you to change your mentality towards looking for a job. That's the most important factor. It's not so much as looking for a job, it's the mentality, the expectations. Most of us have a sense of entitlement. We think we should get hired just because we're looking, and that's not the right mindset.
Was that your mindset?
No. I knew that I needed to change some things. I knew I needed to be a little bit more patient. Mm-hmm. So my mindset was to learn as much as possible and find an opportunity that was best for my situation.
Well, you know, here's my confusion, and I think probably those at home too. You're obviously well-spoken, you're an intelligent man, I would think there would be many doors open to you. So I'm trying to find out what was the problem. I mean, you say I didn't get the job I wanted, but why didn't you have more doors open to you? What was the difficulty there?
The problem is that early in life, I made a lot of wrong decisions.
And what were those?
Those decisions led to me going to prison.
Okay.
I'm a convicted felon. I have more than one felony conviction, and my convictions are for drugs and violence.
Okay.
So that takes me out of the position to be available to some of the jobs that I have the intelligence or the experience to get. Being that I'm a convicted felon, a lot of people didn't want to hire me. And then not having the credentials, I'm self-taught, I'm self-educated. I would go to St. Louis U, Wash U, I would get books when school was out, and I'd go home and study them. So I know a lot of things about various subjects like business administration, a little bit about medicine that the average person doesn't know that did not go to college.
But I thank you for sharing that, because that's the reality for many people out there watching you. That's not just your reality.
Exactly.
There are a number of people out there, which is why these agencies are important for helping people to get on their feet. And you also wanted to address something somebody else said earlier.
Yes, there was a question about why the community doesn't know more about these organizations when actually...
Like Employment Connection.
Like Employment Connection, like Father Support, like Demetrius Johnson Foundation. The reason the people that need the services do know of us, but the reason the businesses don't know is because they're busy running their business. And so they aren't availed to the information. However, what can be done is that, being that our staff is so small, at Employment Connection, we don't have 200 people working there. We have maybe 40. And what we would need done, what can be done, is if the business owners would come to the organizations and get the flyers and put them in their businesses, that would help a great deal, because we don't have the manpower. When I go out and do job developing, I'm worried about one of my clients coming in leading services while I'm out trying to find them a job. I have to do the job developing, and I have to coach the client as well. So if we actually practice being a village, if we actually practice working together to provide the services, to make sure the information got out, say the business owners came and got the flyers and took them and placed them in their businesses, then that would help to get us involved in the community.
You guys agree with that?
Let me say this. What was interesting about what he just said is this. You see, he talked about some of his past and some of the decisions he made that he's not proud of. However, Employment Connection gave him an opportunity to change his life. See, and that's what we talked about, second chance opportunities. I mean, nobody is perfect. Nobody walks around here perfect, but Employment Connection gave him a chance. Now look at him. He's a spokesperson. He wants to do things in the community, and the same for the SLATE program. I mean, I've been really blessed to work with Employment Connection and be able to work with the SLATE program and getting some of those young kids that we got to, like in sports, let me use a sports analogy. We need to coach them up. We need to give them an opportunity to coach them up to get better, to understand. And my good friend Floyd Irons always told me this. He never got mad at one of his players if he never talked to them or told them about a situation. These young folks are not getting an opportunity to understand and learn. But look at him. He is a great example of a man who has some issues. All of us have issues. All of us has gone through something. But Employment Connection gave him a chance, and now look at him. And when you talk about the SLATE program, we dealt with a lot of those kids, but guess what? Rebecca here sends us those kids all the time and help us coach these kids up. We need organizations like all these organizations up here to give folks second chance opportunity to better their lives.
Is there anybody up here who did not give contact information? Because I want everybody to be able to contact all of these agencies in order for them to get the help that they need.
I think that you said you were putting something up on the screen.
We are, as you talk
in reference
about it.
to the conference. I also wanted to interject that in our program in Clayton, we work with graduate students who have criminal justice degrees, and once they graduate, a lot of times they don't know what direction that they want that degree to take them in, whether they would be parole officers, police officers, counselors. They come and they intern in our program on Saturdays. And they get a feel of working directly with inmates, and they get hours for this internship while we assist them in showing them these are your options, and you can take this degree in one area or another. So that's another thing I definitely wanted to mention, because we've been doing that for years.
There's that information on the screen there. Is that information, I mean, are the people that you have intern, are they people who wanted to do those jobs, or you're helping them find their strengths, so to speak?
Yes, exactly. Because once they get their degrees, a lot of times they're working in fields that's not even related. And it's because there's no way of them trying to find out, well, where could this degree take me? And so we kind of give them some insight on, they may want to work in dealing with the courts that come in and they do research on what's going on with a lot of them. There's so many different areas that they can work in, and usually they don't have a clue. So we just try to give them direction and give them an opportunity working with women that have been incarcerated, and to see if that is really, I've had people to say, I don't think I want to do anything in this field, and they opt to do something else. But others say that strengthened their thoughts as to how they wanted to work in that capacity.
Right. We're thankful for the audience that we have, because they've been paying attention all of this time, and it's hopefully a better understanding of these agencies. Anybody else have a question here? Go.
Have you seen a rise in small businesses or other businesses tapping into your organization that would allow more people to be hired? Or what is the situation with the 17,000 people you spoke about that were ex-offenders that are out there right now? Are you seeing them integrate into a system, or what are you seeing?
We're kind of looking at two levels there. What specifically are we doing at Employment Connection, and then the larger picture of the whole region. So for us specifically, we have been seeing an uptake in our placement rate in the relationships that we're building with employers, that we helped over 550 individuals last year to find placement employment. And that runs the gamut from very large employers in the St. Louis region to small businesses that work with us. Having said that, you'll notice that 550 is a much smaller number than 17,000, and that's the community need. And so we need to put those resources together. And the way that we do that is with a variety of partnerships that we have with the United Way, with the St. Louis Mental Health Board, with the Lutheran Foundation, and a variety of other groups that we work with.
To your question a little more specifically, that comes from when we get the opportunity to leave the office and go out and job develop and establish those relationships with employers. There has been an upturn in how many small businesses have started to call us and see if we have qualified candidates, because we do vet our candidates, we do train them and try to educate them and get them ready for such things. So the more we interact with small businesses, the more they will begin to avail themselves to our claims.
Okay, that's our show for now. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. We really appreciate all the information that you gave us today. And thank you, of course, to the audience, who was just fantastic. We really have to talk about the problems, and we also have to talk about the solutions here. More importantly, we hope we have provided you with some real information as far as the violence in the city that we talked about earlier. We all agree that peace must prevail. It just has to stop. And we have to also invest in our communities, our young people, and ourselves. So thanks to this wonderful crew, Andre Hoban, our director, and from all of us here at STL TV, be sure to join us for the next edition of The Issues. Until then, goodbye and good luck.